My wife cheated with her boss. Now her boss's life is ruined. She's broke and alone, and I'm with his wife. I'll never forget the exact moment I found out. It wasn't a slow realization, no creeping suspicion that built up over time. It was like getting hit by a truck. Sudden, brutal, and leaving me completely flattened. I was sitting on our couch, mindlessly scrolling through my phone. The hum of the television droned in the background, some sitcom Emily and I had watched together 100 times before. I wasn't even paying attention. Then, a notification popped up on my screen. A message from an unknown number. At first, I almost ignored it. Probably spam. But then my eyes caught the preview text. You deserve to know the truth. Something in my gut twisted. With shaky fingers, I opened the message. Attached were screenshots. Dozens of them. Text messages between my wife, Emily, and another number. Explicit, detailed, undeniable. Plans to meet at hotels. Inside jokes that weren't mine. Complaints about me, like I was some obstacle in her life, rather than the man she'd vowed to love and be faithful to. Then there were the pictures. My stomach churned. I felt like I was falling even though I was sitting completely still. My hands clenched around the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. My breathing became shallow, my pulse hammering in my ears. I didn't want to believe it, but it was all there. Time-stamped messages spanning months. Months. Emily had been sleeping with her boss, Daniel Carter, a high-ranking executive at the firm she worked for. And judging by the level of comfort in their messages, this wasn't just some drunken mistake. This was a full-blown affair. My first reaction was shock. Then came the rage, hot, immediate, and nearly blinding. I wanted to break something, to scream, to confront her right then and there. But something in me held back. Some cold, calculating part of me told me to wait. Confrontation wasn't enough. I needed a plan. I took a deep breath, forcing my shaking hands to steady. Emily didn't know I knew. That was an advantage. And right now, I wasn't about to waste it. Some men would have yelled, some would have thrown things. Some would have begged for an explanation, demanded answers that wouldn't change a damn thing. I did none of that. Instead, I made a phone call. The ringing felt endless. My nerves were raw, my mind racing through every possible outcome of what I was about to do. But then, finally, the call connected. Hello? A woman's voice. Slightly irritated, like she'd been caught in the middle of something important. Lena Carter? I asked, my voice calm despite the storm raging inside me. There was a pause. Yes, who is this? My name is Adam, I said. I think we need to talk. It's about your husband and my wife. Silence, a long one, then a sharp intake of breath. What? I have proof, I continued, of their affair. If you want to see it, meet me, tonight. Another silence, then finally a clipped response. Where? I drove across town with a flash drive full of evidence sitting in my cup holder like a loaded gun. My heart pounded in my chest. I wasn't sure what kind of woman Lena was or how she'd react. But one thing was certain. Daniel Carter had just made two very dangerous enemies. Your husband is a lying piece of shit. Lena Carter was even more intimidating in person than I had imagined. I had looked her up before the meeting, pictures of her at charity events, magazine features highlighting her family's wealth, interviews where she seemed poised and articulate. None of those did her justice. She opened the door to her enormous home with a look of cold curiosity, her dark eyes scanning me like she was sizing me up for a fight. The house behind her was stunning, vaulted ceilings, a chandelier that probably cost more than my car. It smelled like fresh flowers and money. I felt wildly out of place. Yes, she said, crossing her arms. She was beautiful, but in an unapproachable way, like she had been carved from marble and expected the world to admire her from a distance. I held up my phone. I think you should see this. She raised a perfectly manicured eyebrow, but didn't say anything as I handed it to her. I watched as she scrolled through the messages, her expression not changing at first. Then her lips pressed into a thin line. Her nostrils flared. Her grip on the phone tightened. Then, slowly, she let out a breath. That absolute bastard, I nodded. Yeah. Welcome to my world. She stood there for a long moment, looking at my phone like she wanted to throw it through a wall. Then she turned on her heel and walked into the house, leaving the door open behind her. I hesitated for only a second before stepping inside. Lena led me to a sleek modern kitchen, motioning for me to sit at a large marble island. She pulled a bottle of wine from a built-in cooler, poured herself a generous glass, then glanced at me. Want one? I shook my head. I think I'm good. She took a long sip, then leaned against the counter. How long have you known? Just a few hours, I admitted. I got the texts from an unknown number. Guess someone wanted me to know. Same here, she said, setting her glass down with a sharp clink. I got a message this afternoon. I didn't believe it at first, but now, she gestured toward my phone. That's undeniable. We sat in silence for a moment. The weight of it all settled in like an anchor in my chest. Then she straightened, her expression going from wounded to something else entirely, something sharp, calculating. I'm divorcing him, she said decisively, and I'm taking him for everything. Her words were so cold, so certain, that it sent a chill down my spine. She wasn't just hurt, she was planning her counterattack. I exhaled. I guess that makes two of us. Lena studied me for a moment, as if deciding whether or not she respected me. Then, slowly, she smirked. Maybe we should help each other. That was the moment everything changed. That was the moment the revenge began. Lena didn't waste a second. By the time I sat down at her kitchen island, she had already pulled out a pen and a legal pad. The woman was meticulous. Let's go over this carefully, she said, her voice clipped and professional. We need to be smart. If we go in guns blazing, they'll deny it. We need to cripple them. I watched her for a moment, admiring how fast she had shifted from betrayed wife to strategist. What do you have in mind? First, I'm filing for divorce. Tomorrow morning. No hesitation. The prenup is in my favor, and the adultery clause gives me everything. The house, the investments, the savings. I exhaled. Damn. She smirked. He wanted to protect his assets in case I ever cheated. Guess he never thought it'd be him in court. I shook my head. What about Emily? Lena's expression darkened. What do you want out of this? I leaned back, running a hand through my hair. Full custody. I'm not letting her drag my kids into this mess. And if I can get her to pay me child support, even better. Lena nodded, jotting something down. You'll need documentation proving neglect or instability. If she fights it, we'll make sure the court sees her affair as a sign of irresponsibility. We sat there for hours, crafting a plan that would ensure neither of our exes walked away from this unscathed. By the time I left, I had a roadmap. Emily and Daniel had no idea what was coming. I walked into my house that night like nothing was wrong. Emily was on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She barely glanced up. Hey babe, you're home late. I stared at her, wondering how she could sit there so casually, so unbothered, while she had been sneaking around behind my back for months. I wanted to grab my phone, throw the evidence in her face, demand an explanation, but I didn't, not yet. Yeah, I said, forcing my voice to stay even. Had a long night. She hummed, still staring at her screen. I'm exhausted. Work was brutal. The audacity of it made my skin crawl. Brutal? Was sneaking around with Daniel Carter a hard day's work? I clenched my jaw so hard I thought my teeth might crack. Yeah? I asked, walking past her toward the kitchen. What did you do today? She sighed dramatically. Meetings, reports, the usual. I nodded slowly. Right, just another day at the office. She didn't catch the edge in my tone, didn't even look up. This week, I was serving her divorce papers. This week, I was going to ruin her life. And she didn't even see it coming. I had taken the next few days off work, not because I needed time to process, but because I needed to be fully present for what was about to happen. When Emily woke up, I was already sitting at the kitchen table, a cup of coffee in front of me. I wasn't drinking it. I was waiting. Morning, she mumbled, stretching as she walked in. She was wearing my t-shirt, the same one she always stole from my side of the closet. It made my stomach turn. Sit down, I said, my voice flat. That got her attention. She frowned, rubbing her tired eyes. What's up? I slid the envelope across the table. Open it. She hesitated, then picked it up. Her fingers trembled slightly as she unfolded the papers. Her eyes scanned the first few lines and I saw her face go pale. Adam, what is this? Divorce papers, I said calmly. I know everything, Emily. I know about Daniel. I know about the hotels, the lies, the messages. I know it all. She dropped the papers onto the table as if they burned her. Wait, just wait, okay? Can we talk about this? There's nothing to talk about, I said. I've already spoken to my lawyer. You'll be hearing from them soon. She shook her head rapidly, her breath coming quicker. This doesn't have to be like this. I messed up, okay? But we can fix this. You messed up? I let out a bitter laugh. Emily, this wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. Over and over again, you chose to cheat. You chose to lie to me. Now you can deal with the consequences. Tears welled in her eyes. Adam, please, I love you. I don't want to lose you. I stared at her, at the woman I had once thought I'd spend my life with, the woman who had promised to be faithful, and I felt nothing, just emptiness. You lost me the second you decided I wasn't enough for you, I said, standing up. Now get out of my house. She let out a broken sob. Where am I supposed to go? I shrugged. I don't care. That's not my problem anymore. She looked at me like she didn't recognize me, like I was someone completely different. Maybe I was. Maybe she had made me this way. With shaky hands, she grabbed the divorce papers and walked away, disappearing down the hall. I heard the bedroom door close. Then, silence. I exhaled, rubbing my temples. It was done. Or at least, this part was. There was still Daniel Carter to deal with. And I had big plans for him. Emily was out of my house. The locks had been changed. The divorce papers were filed. But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. I hadn't forgotten about Daniel Carter, the smug, overpaid executive who had decided my wife was his personal plaything. Emily may have been a cheating liar, but he was just as guilty. And he was about to learn what happens when you screw over the wrong man. I started with a simple step, collecting more dirt. Lena was more than happy to help. Over the next few days, we met up multiple times, going over what she had. Bank statements, suspicious transactions, company expense reports. The man was sloppy. He had been paying for hotels, dinners, and gifts for Emily with his company's money. He thinks he's untouchable, Lena said one evening over drinks. The board loves him. He's made them a lot of money. But if they find out he's been using corporate funds for an affair, that changes everything. I leaned back, a smirk forming. So let's make sure they find out. Lena tilted her glass toward me. Now you're talking. We were strategic. We didn't just send everything to his company in one go. We leaked it. First, an anonymous tip about misallocated corporate funds. Then, reports of frequent, unexplained travel expenses. Finally, a carefully curated packet of documents mailed directly to the company's board of directors. Within 2 weeks, the hammer dropped. Daniel was placed on administrative leave, pending an investigation. His emails were seized, his work laptop was confiscated, and just like that, the golden boy was officially tainted. It wasn't long before the media picked it up, small at first, then bigger. Articles speculated about the disgraced executive, allegations of misconduct, misuse of company funds. And through it all, I waited. Then one morning, my phone buzzed. A text from Lena. He's fired. I exhaled slowly, letting it sink in. He was done. But I wasn't finished. While Daniel was busy watching his career burn to the ground, Emily was dealing with her own personal collapse. Her affair was public now. It was no longer some dirty little secret confined to hotel rooms. Friends, family, co-workers, they all knew. She lost her job. Turns out, when your boss gets fired for inappropriate behavior, the woman he was screwing doesn't get to stick around either. She called me, over and over again, begging to talk, pleading for another chance. I never picked up. One night, she showed up at my door. I almost ignored it, but part of me wanted to see her face to face. I opened the door slowly. Emily stood there, eyes red, mascara streaked down her face. Please, she whispered, just talk to me. I crossed my arms. Why? She swallowed hard. I miss you. I made a mistake. I let out a dry laugh. You didn't make a mistake, Emily. You made a decision, over and over again, and now you don't like the consequences. Her lips trembled. Adam, I love you. No, you don't, I said simply. You loved having stability while screwing around behind my back. And now that it's all gone, you're crawling back? I shook my head. Not happening. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I have nowhere to go. I tilted my head. You had a home. You threw it away. She reached for me, but I stepped back. Go home, Emily. Oh, wait. You don't have one. She gasped softly like I had slapped her. Then, shoulders shaking, she turned and walked away. I closed the door. I didn't watch her leave. By the end of it all, Daniel was unemployed, disgraced, and facing legal trouble for misusing company funds. Emily was alone, jobless, and forced to move back in with her parents. But the part that destroyed them the most? Lena and I became a couple. At first, we told ourselves it was just casual, two people finding solace in each other after mutual betrayal. But the connection was undeniable. The more time we spent together, the more we realized how much we actually enjoyed each other. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. What started as dinners to discuss legal battles turned into late-night conversations about our pasts, our kids, and what we wanted out of life. We laughed. We understood each other's pain without judgment. And somewhere along the way, we stopped pretending it was temporary. We became a couple, officially. And when Daniel and Emily found out, they completely lost their minds. Daniel called Lena in a fit of rage, demanding to know if it was true. She put him on speakerphone while we sat on her couch, sipping wine. "You're dating him? After everything?" Daniel shouted. Lena smirked. "Well, he's an upgrade from my last husband," Daniel seethed. "You're doing this just to humiliate me." "Oh, Danny," Lena purred. "You did that to yourself," I chimed in. "You should be thanking me, man. At least she finally knows what it's like to be with someone loyal." Daniel's breathing turned erratic. "You son of a..." Lena hung up mid-sentence and burst out laughing. Emily's reaction was somehow even more pathetic. She texted me a long, rambling message about how it was so messed up that I would betray her like this. Betray her. I responded with 2 words, "You first." After that, she spiraled. She tried to turn mutual friends against me, but no one took her seriously. She left bitter comments on social media when Lena and I posted a picture together. She even showed up at my house one last time, begging for a conversation. "It's not fair," she sobbed. "You're moving on, and I'm stuck." I looked at her, this woman I once loved, now a ghost of herself. "You made your bed, Emily. Now lie in it." That was the last time I ever saw her. Months later, Lena and I moved in together. Our kids bonded surprisingly well. Turns out being children of cheaters gives them a lot to relate to. We built something strong, something real. Something neither of our exes would ever have again. And the best part? Daniel and Emily ended up alone. Daniel tried to rebound, but no one in his social circle wanted to associate with a man who had been publicly disgraced. Emily had to settle for dating losers who never took her seriously. Meanwhile, Lena and I thrived. One evening, as we sat on her back patio watching the sunset, Lena turned to me and smirked. "You ever think about how much this must piss them off?" she asked. I grinned. "Every damn day." We clinked our glasses together, to revenge, to justice, to living happily ever after, while they rot in their own misery.